So let's talk about the German city of Bremen. It's got this really fascinating, kind of complex story. You see, it's a city of total contradictions. On one hand, it's a huge gateway for drugs pouring into Europe, but on the other, it's a leader, a real pioneer, in creating some of the most forward-thinking and, well, compassionate support for people with addiction. So yeah, let's dive right in.
So that really gets us to the core question here, right? Is Bremen a drug hub or is it this beacon of social progress? And the wild thing is, as we're about to see, the answer is, well, it's both.
And this really lays out that paradox perfectly. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got these massive, record-setting drug busts. It's a city just grappling with being this major pipeline for narcotics. But then you look to the right and you see this incredible, innovative push for addiction support. I'm talking about a system that's becoming a model for others. It really is a tale of two completely different cities, all wrapped up in one.
All right, so let's tackle that first side of the coin. Bremen as this huge gateway for drugs. And to really get a grip on the challenge they're facing, you have to understand the staggering amount of narcotics that are flowing through their port.
Okay, just look at this number, 1.1 tons. That is, what, over 2,400 pounds of cocaine? Can you even picture that? This was the biggest single bust in Bremen's entire history. Customs officials found it, and you won't believe where. It was hidden inside a shipment of plasterboards at the Bremerhaven port. I mean, that is just a mind-boggling amount. And here's the thing, it wasn't just a fluke, not a one-off. In a totally different bust, they found another 740 kilos. That's more than 1,600 pounds, by the way. This time, stuffed inside a coffee container. So you see, these huge seizures prove this isn't some small-time problem. It's a constant, massive battle for the police.
And this is really important. The problem doesn't just stay at the port, locked away in shipping containers. No way. It spills out, right into the city. We're talking about police conducting these regular, targeted raids on drug gangs in neighborhoods like Groppingen. This is the challenge that's impacting the entire city, affecting people's daily lives miles away from the docks.
And all of this has a very real, very visible human cost. You can see it plain as day right at the city's main train station. It's the kind of place where this crisis is just right there, and you absolutely cannot ignore it.
In fact, a lot of people describe the open drug scene there as, and I quote, a visible sign of failed prevention. Wow. That phrase, it just hits hard, doesn't it? It's this public spectacle of real desperation, right in the heart of the city. So imagine you're a visitor, where you just commute to work there every day. The train station is your first impression of Bremen. And what do you see? Open drug use, homelessness. It's led to what one source called a sad normalization, especially for young people who grow up seeing this every single day. And of course, this sparks a huge political fight. What's the answer? More police? A harder crackdown? Or do you pour resources into social programs? And that very debate is actually reflected in what Bremen is trying to do. They're not just picking one side. Instead, they're trying this two-pronged strategy, this blend of policing and social work.
So here's how that dual approach actually looks on the ground. You've got the enforcement piece, a special police task force at the station, plus these targeted raids they call razzias. But then, at the same time, you have the social support side. We're talking about street outreach teams who have made over 2,700 contacts in just one district alone. And there's a big push to create safe, alternative spaces for people who are homeless or struggling with addiction.
Now, what's really interesting is that part of this social support is super modern. Bremen is actually using technology to try and change the game when it comes to providing help. Let's take a look at how this adds a whole new layer to their strategy.
For instance, the city is promoting these digital platforms that offer free, totally anonymous professional counseling online. Not just for people with addiction, but for their families too. It's a brilliant idea, right? But, as we're about to see, technology isn't always the perfect fix.
And that brings us to this really strange story of a digital failure, what you might call a digital black hole.
So the city created this online portal, the Online Melda Portal. The idea was great. Citizens could go on and anonymously report any corruption or crime they saw happening at the port. The only problem? It was broken. For years, not one single tip ever made it through. It's just such a powerful reminder that having fancy tools doesn't mean anything if they don't actually work.
So, after all that, where are we? Let's try to pull these two seemingly opposite stories back together and figure out what the path forward looks like for a city that seems to be in this unending fight.
I think the big takeaway here is that there are no easy answers. Bremen's situation is really a perfect snapshot of the global drug crisis. It shows that you can't just pick one solution. The only path that seems to work is this combined approach. You need the tough, consistent police work to go after the traffickers, but you absolutely have to pair it with a strong, growing system of social and even digital support for the people who are caught in the middle of it all.
Because in the end, it all comes down to the people. The whole point of these social programs is summed up in this one powerful message they send to anyone struggling with addiction. You are not different, you are not alone. And that's a profound statement of empathy in the middle of such a huge crisis. And that leaves us with one final thought. Enforcement or empathy? Does a city really have to choose one over the other? Because if Bremen's story tells us anything, it's that maybe, just maybe, the only real path to success is to refuse to pick a side, to actually try to do both. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.